Up and live. All right, guys, welcome to kind of a little bit on the fly for this one. I know I talked to a few of the folks in the blue-green community as far as what we wanted to do and talking about this deck. And I know there's been a lot of momentum around this. 100% with you. I was not 100% a blue-green believer at the beginning of the set, but CC, like, I don't know, this whole Fabled metagame just put me on tilt. I was not in a happy place. I was testing with Danzor quite a bit. We were doing a lot of Blurple testing, and really just to me, it looked like Blurple was coming out way strong ahead of the pack. And I think we got to a Blurple list. Yeah, I think it's far and ahead in terms of card quality. They really had the anyway. I hate it. I hate playing Blurple. I played. Quigley was at the event with the Pandemonium CCS, and I'm sure he saw the life leaving my eyes as he was like having fun and actually winning his rounds. I played 7 Blurple Mirrors in 9 rounds, ended 6-3, which is respectable. I played a lot of good players, and like Ed took one down from me, and like I want to say Bannable, we had a really close 3 games, that kind of things. But the day 2, I was like committed to not playing this. So I hit JP up and I'm like, what's the deck list looking like? Just give me something. And I'm more or less, we chatted for like 2 minutes before I went to sleep, and he went into sleep. Or I'm not sure if he was getting up. Euro time is a mystery to me. But he gave me a list. Yeah, we'll circle around to the deck list I ended up playing, but I want to kind of take a look at everything that played out over the last couple of weeks as far as blue-greens. I know Pandemonium's done a lot of work on it, on his list, which we have I know someone did well with, I'd say a list that's very close to where you started, at least. I know you'll have some opinions there. Someone from the Loungers team, shout out to Colpos, who is probably traveling right now. And then again, JP has, yeah, man, we're hoping blue-green runs it up. So I got a bunch of different deck lists I want to talk about. I did want to, just as we're warming up here, just give a little moment of silence or a brief lay our heads down for the people in Denver who are having to use the Ravensburger Play Portal and just like completely wiped out their round 2. At least for us at CCS, we at least got to use Melee. So we had no issues with Melee. Melee has its problems in the past, but well, I know some folks, like I saw Zenulos was like, yeah, I lost my round 2, but then we did it again. So who cares? I don't. But
that they're trying to make their own platform. It's just not there yet, and it doesn't seem quite ready for prime time.
All right, I am hearing that we are not hearing Pandemonium and JP. Let me try to troubleshoot that real quick. So.
Oh. Oh boy.
Yeah, little technical issues. To
oh
start us
my
off.
God, Jesus.
Okay.
Mad Jack, keep me honest here. Are you able to hear JP and them now?
Check.
Okay, I will check it as well.
Okay.
Jesus.
Let me get this window back.
And
we can hear now.
And you are streaming.
It's all good. We only in there.
Oh yeah, no, I was coming through. I listened back and I could hear myself coming through there.
Okay, but you are streaming, not my camera. You are streaming Discord. So.
Yeah, looks like.
Hey guys, I want to be in the picture again.
All right. Thank goodness.
Let me make sure that we are pulling in that audio. Give me just 1 second, and we will Patient
Yo, buddy, I know that Discord is amazing, but nobody.
All
Now
right.
Pandemonium is missing. Great.
Uh-oh.
Yep, Discord wants to play games with us real quick, so let me see what I can get done. All right, I got Pandemonium back in the shot. Let's edit this guy and see why JP is now missing. All right. Oh, it's good. It's not good luck to do it without a few issues.
Absolutely.
So it looks like
This is
I
to be
am coming
expected.
in, and quick, Pandemonium, you want to say something real quick? Just make sure everything's lighting up.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hope you can hear me clearly.
Okay, and JP, say something real quick. I think we're green now.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Blue Green.
All right. Well, like I said, bad luck if we don't mess it up just a little bit. Appreciate it, Mad Jack, for letting us know some issues. I think we can see everybody. We can hear everybody now. Y'all heard the one-sided conversation, but yeah, just a shout out to everybody in Denver that's going through it right now and just had to replay round 2, and I think they're like resetting that thing over and over again at this point. They're in the bad place. I won't say I'm glad I missed it, because I definitely would love to be playing right now.
No kidding.
But I'm glad I'm not going through that disaster, and hopefully that happens as a precursor to. I know Pandemonium and I will both be in Milwaukee. JP, you got Bologna coming up, right?
Yep, that's right.
So
Going to Italy.
maybe we can fix the Ravensburger play before that ends up going up.
At this point, I think both DLCs should just switch to melee, and then you hopefully fix out these kinks for set 10. I don't think we can gamble on either DLC.
Yeah, it's a big mess. Few other just silly things before we get into the meat and potatoes today. I asked everybody for a picture, and at first, so I was looking at my phone. I was at lunch with some coworkers and stuff, and I was like, JP, hey, send me a photo so I can chop it up and put, throw you in the thumbnail. And I just thought this was the most European picture I've ever seen of anyone. So he's representing the Euros very well. He's got a very stylish scarf. I thought, so when I looked at it on my phone, I thought the playmat that he had in his hand, which obviously it's a playmat now that I see it, but I thought it was just one of those really long beers. I thought it was just a really long, tall beer. And I'm like, dude, you are the most European person I've ever seen. This is beautiful.
Wow.
So,
At least representing from the heart of the Europe.
You look good, buddy. You look good. Like compared to if we flip back, and something he was making fun of me a little bit. He's like, you look so serious, and I'm like, a little bit. I thought it was a good shot. I had my good Spider-Man T-shirt on that day, so it was like, somebody got a decent photo. I'm like, this is probably the only photo I actually have of myself playing the game, so I've been using this one.
Card game players are it's tough to find good photos sometimes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, with the trading card game photos, like every trading card game player has some of these like serious faces and stuff like that. And that's the reason why I sent you the picture that I sent you, because every photo I have of me playing is the most serious face ever.
I think the other one you said it was like you in a Jawa or something. Like it was like I can't remember what the character was, but.
Yeah, that was from like Star Wars convention, like with Bounty Hunter or something like that.
Okay, that's fun. That sounds hilarious.
Good stuff. Just before, so to kind of transition us into talking through some of these deck lists. So the first set of deck lists I pulled in were the 2 blue-green deck lists that made top 16 of CCS this past weekend, and we'll pull in some of the ones from Ink. I know blue-green didn't see too much. It didn't have too many top finishes there, but I'm going to pull in one of them I thought was spicy there that I showed you guys just before stream. Bottom, like standing here with the double peace signs on the bottom, is one of my fellow loungers, Kolpos. We were going to throw him on the stream today, but he found a last-minute flight to Denver and is out there trying to make blue-green work for him. So
what a grinder.
Yeah. He's the man. you know, his list will go over here that he top 16, but he was really knocking it down. A Pandemonium, I know you were like, I kept checking in with you. You had like I want to say 6-0 before, like you got dream crushed a little bit. You want to talk about your CCS?
Yeah, so I walked into it not having the highest of expectations. I didn't feel that sure about the list. I don't know. I didn't have how should I put this? I didn't know how much I could trust Lorcanito testing. That's how I would put it.
Fair.
And so I said like I was just going to more or less leak my sauce before the event and just play it, see how things goes. I kind of wanted to play dogs, but I didn't have the reps on it, so I was just like, I'll do my best. And then things went really great, like spectacularly so to start. And like I was just facing like Blurple and crushing Blurple. I faced a couple of Purple Steel players, and they were even for me they were even easier than the Blurple players. And then we got to round 7, last round of the day. Just missed out on a draw due to that scary scenario of drawing an on-ink when you really needed to be an ink to play Clarabelle. And then day 2, just couldn't quite manage it. In the last 3 rounds, it was 3 lost die rolls into 3 game 3s on the draw where I just didn't have it. So couldn't quite get there, unfortunately. Still a good run in the grand scheme of things, finished 45th, but when it gets that close, it was a tough pill to swallow. But I'm glad at least that we saw some other very good green blue pilots get to top finishes, and like 4 in top 16, I think it was for green blue. That was fantastic to see, regardless.
Yeah, just to kind of run it back I know I was kind of talking to myself at the beginning, but I did not play green blue in the main event. I really should have. Like I knew for certain it was going to be a huge Blurple metagame. I didn't know to what extent though. In my 9 rounds,
neither did I. That was wild.
7 Blurples in 9 rounds is the most like one deck metagame I've ever played in any card game ever. And I've been playing card games since 1998. It was insane.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy.
And I just.
What was the last deck that wasn't Blurple?
So I played Blurple 7 times. I played Amber Steel 1 time. I played Purple Steel 1 time. I beat both of those. I ended up losing to 3 mirrors on the draw. 2 of them to really, really competitive players. Like Ed Chu had the most greedy build of Blurple I've ever seen. 0 1-drops in his deck. 4 second star to the right, like I want to say 4 of the big Elsas. Like he was just way over the top, and I was
why respect aggro if you're gonna face 6 or 7 meters in the day?
Who cares, right?
Point that.
I played a build that was more low to the ground. I thought because in Atlanta, you always have, and really with any of these open tournaments, to me, you always have to be prepared for just aggro piles. People don't know what to play. They'll be like, all right, let me play something that wins fast, and maybe I can just sneak some in. So I played 8 1-drops. I played 4 elephants. I played a very low to the ground list. I played something with dig instead of second star. Just because it's more reliable into your fast matchups. It worked out okay over the weekend. Like I went 6-3. I'm not like, it wasn't terrible. And again, my losses were to really good players, the people who were like completely ready for the mirror, where I was a little bit less so. But I hated it. I'm never playing Blurple again. My elephants are for sale. If you are looking to buy elephants, I am done with that card. I will not go back.
You mean, right?
Yeah,
Dumbo?
no. My Madam M elephants, they're what quarter or whatever. My Dumbos are for sale. I'll put them on eBay soon. I can't do it again. Like I can't. It's just not my play style.
I feel you. I did some. I remember.
Buddy. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I can remember going to Vegas, rocking red blue and playing 6 mirrors, and I'm just like, I'm not about. I can't deal with that life of the meta mirrors. It's tough.
For some reason, red blue.
I mean, guys,
JP,
blue green. Come on, blue green mirrors gonna be even more insane. Like
you're not wrong.
They will be even more insane because every little decision in that mirror will cost you a lot of mental power, and like one misplay and you are done. Yep. I think in the mirror it's gonna be absolutely crazy, and we have influx of red blue players, because I think they want a home, they want some big nuke, we have like the little nuke that can be big nuke, and yeah, I think a lot of people are missing Be Prepared, and they are flocking to green blue for some shelter or something like that. And yeah, you will need a practice mirrors a lot because that matchup will be insane.
I talked about it
Absolutely.
just a little bit in the video I put out yesterday that I think got uploaded today, just with my tournament recap. If you guys are looking for some more like green-blue content, I did a video on the list JP gave me and kind of the changes that I would make on it. We'll talk about it a little bit today too, just because I ended up top 8ing with that one, spoiler alert, in the 5K event, so I did pretty well there. Very stacked top 8 for that one too, by the way. And again, thanks to JP for the last minute, like on 0 reps, ran his deck and just had to be better mentally for me than playing Blurple again. I couldn't do it. JP,
Yeah, I'm really glad that you represented the deck well. I mean, the list, I was very confident that you will do well with it because you were repping it last set, and the deck was way harder than it is right now, and all the skills and knowledge like transfer, and you just pick it up and and with the list I've been pretty confident at that point that it's like the best list that you can do. Of course there are a lot of other stuff that you can do, and hopefully we will talk about all of that in this episode, but it's just clean. And once you play one game, you just know what to do the rest of the tournament, I think.
Before we start getting into the list, JP, I talked about kind of how Pandemonium and I had this last weekend at CCS. Did you have any events that you were able to run the deck into, or is your next big event just going to be that Bologna, or do you have anything coming up?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, it will be just Bologna. So in Europe, like we have the 20, 30 players tournaments, and if we get something bigger, we have to travel to different countries. And it's not even like that big of a tournament because you guys have like 5K, 2Ks, 10Ks, 25Ks, seems like every week. And if we get something like that, it's like 2 a year. And I have to travel to Sweden or to Vienna or to something like that. Like I always have to travel, and that's travel expenses are crazy. And unfortunately, we do not have any big tournaments in Europe at the moment.
I know
As a
Pandemonium.
Canadian,
I was gonna say he's Canadian, not US, so he actually. You want to talk about that?
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I feel you completely on that one. Like I always enjoy going out to these when I get the chance, and we are very blessed in North America having a lot of places running big tournaments, but it's always going to be a big cost flying from Canada, unfortunately.
At least in the Atlanta area, if you ever get a chance, like I'm sure you knew this, like it's a little bit lower cost. Our tournament, even though it's like quote unquote Atlanta, it's not actually in Atlanta, so you're not like in downtown Atlanta where everything is cost prohibitive a little bit more. It's in Stone Mountain, Georgia. We have this thing in Georgia, if you don't know about it, like everything's Atlanta. Everybody claims to be Atlanta that for like 50 miles outside of the city.
Makes sense.
It's one of those things of like it's Atlanta, but is it really? But
it's the same way around here in around Toronto where I'm at.
But we had like a hotel price of, I think every big city is like that to some degree. Our hotel price for the weekend, if you use like the discount rate, was like $60-$70, something like that, USD. So you can't really beat that. It's it's a shotgun hotel. Let's be honest with you. But I don't know.
So $60-$70 for a night.
Yeah. I know
Damn, it's even cheaper than here.
I know.
Wasn't too bad. Although you did have to make do with roaches.
Did you have a bad time?
My room had a roach. 2 other rooms I know had a roach. It was kind of a adventure. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
If you live in the South,
I mean,
for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was traveling to Vienna for a big tournament, but not court constructed. It was limited, and I was paying like 100 euros, which is like $100. Like it's probably the same, but I was sleeping at a capsule, so it was one big room with like 2 meters like capsule with just single door. So you just open it, you crawl in. There is only one bed, and
That's
nothing
rough.
else.
That's rough.
That's for $100 in Europe.
That's wild.
When we were on our honeymoon, I'm a big guy. I'll show you guys in a second here in one of these screenshots. I was just kind of BSing with Habibi earlier of like, let's arm wrestle to go first next time.
Yeah.
But I'm a gigantic person compared to regular people. But I was in Europe, right, for a honeymoon, and just trying to find a bed that would actually fit my giant self in it was just impossible. They don't make them like that. Same over in Asia, right? Like they're just not building them that way. Let's transition to talking a little bit about this CCS event. So we talked about right here, Mr. Kolpos did well with the top 16 with a different style list than another one I'm going to highlight here, which is Jeremy Bertioni. I hope I'm saying that right. Jeremy, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But Jeremy played another type of blue-green list that was more, if you're a Magic player or if you come from a different TCG background, you might have heard the term Stompy. That kind of is what as opposed to like more of a mid-range deck or maybe a control deck, anyway, we'll talk about it. We'll share some of the lists, and I want to get you guys' opinions on it. Why these lists would have done well, and why these card choices may or may not be the right choice depending on what you're looking at. All right, I'm gonna flip us over. Oh, go ahead.
I guess I can get into it. The co-post list at least is very close to list I ran and the list that I've kind of been pushing in the community. Very control oriented. I kind of go over as much as possible. Notably running the for Hades is kind of a way to create an abundance of strong top decks. So if you get into the top deck game, you can essentially win and kind of can compete with the blurple top decks. Preakly was a huge card that I was pushing as an additional way to ramp and create some very powerful double ramp lines to get you to those bombs a bit faster. And just running higher on the running, of course, the combo of UTS Heads Tie, which I think is consistent across all the lists. But really works well in control shells to flip the game when you need to. Kopos just run a very good streamlined list for control that I think does very well in this format. As a lot of green lists do, absolutely. The Jeremy build in comparison is a much more of a mid-range style of list. As opposed to trying to grind your opponent out of resources like this control build tries to do. It says, I'm going to spam 5/5s on the board in the mid game and say deal with it. And that did very well into Blurple. I think Jeremy's list is tuned much better for aggro, where you have those 4-shift Baymax. Any list can 1-shift Baymax, but it's going to be harder, I think, for a KP list or a list like mine to fit in that many uninkables. But with that much Baymax, you're going to be very good and consistently good into AS aggro. It's hard to say which is better into Blurple. I think both lists are good into Blurple. But where I think Jeremy's list might falter, and I think he's admitted this, is in the mirror. I think that list is going to struggle a bit more about having more removal pieces like the Kolpos list or the KP list have. Notably, I faced Zan and Amir on Sunday, and as opposed to running this list, which he did on Saturday, he shoved in 2 bend to my wills for the mirror, and that absolutely made a big difference. So I think they're already looking to adapt this build more to do a bit better in the mirror. But it is a very good list, and if you're worried about aggro, the Jeremy list I think will do you very well too.
JP,
So what is the second list? Can you show the second list that Pandemonium was talking about?
Yeah, let me. I'll flash it real quick, and I want to swap back and maybe get your thoughts, JP, on some of the cards that I know are kind of individual to this style list. I think Pandemonium, definitely a pioneer on this one. I know Kolpos was looking at some of these. I'll talk about these call outs, but I'll flash that list just for a second. This is Jeremy Bertioni's list. The list that top aided, and to his I will say this, for talking to Jeremy a little bit kind of before and after, they admit that this is not a control deck, right? To what Pandemonium was saying, the list is
Oh, this one.
looking to
Okay.
just spam big bodies and kind of bully Blurple for that reason. And kind of, same into your aggro decks. This deck is looking to just run, okay, Scrooge McDuck into Baymax into John Silver. You're just playing giant bodies, and to his point, he said it well, just deal with it, right? Let's flip. I want to flip back just for a second to this Colpost list, because I think this is kind of one of the keystone lists that we're going to see quite a bit.
Yep.
JP, did you try out some of these? And I'll point out the cards, and you mentioned a couple of them, Pandemonium, that are, kind of, I'd say the signpost of this style of list. First one is the Bobby, and I'd say goes hand in hand. You correct me if I'm wrong, but the Pleakley as well.
100%. Yeah, that's basically the package where, like, if you're playing Pleakley, you are playing Bobby 100%, and kind of vice versa.
Hades,
of course, you can look at this like with the Bobby and stuff like that. Like, those are the packages that comes together. Like, if you are running Bobby, you most likely are running Pleakley, or the other way around. If you are running Pleakley, you are running Bobby. If you are running Bobby, you can play Baymax. I'm not seeing it in the list, but it's like those cards that fit together. And Bobby and Pleakley and Baymax and stuff like that goes together one way. Then there are like I cannot just now realize what I wanted to say. What are the other cards that go together that are not here? But those are the combos that you want to keep together, and the deck will basically tell you how to play.
Let me ask you this, Pandemonium, because I know this was a style that you kind of you definitely advocate for. The 4 of Hades. What percentage points, what matchups do you think you gained there? That's a question I get a lot from the list that I played most recently this weekend, was why aren't you playing 4 Hades? And I have my answers, but I'm curious, from you who have tested that quite a bit in this list, what percentage points are you gaining with the Hades? As I know obviously a very powerful card, but any specific matchups that you would call out there?
So ultimately, I think it's just a very solid all-around good card. We're in a meta without a lot of removal. Hades says delete thing. I think it's very good into Blurple. I think it's very good into the mirror. The biggest reason is that Hades is one of the clean answer into Dumbo, a card that otherwise, we can balance it, of course, and that is good, but if in the event you're in a more of a grindy type of game, that isn't always going to be permanent. And probably the bigger threat, ironically, is Hades itself, where Hades is a tough card to bounce, where, they can get replayed again and regain tempo immediately. Whereas when you play Hades, you're opting into that Hades war, essentially. It is kind of unfortunate that one of the only great answers into Hades is Hades itself, unless you can out-tempo them. But that's essentially why I wanted to run this card. I was, at the beginning of the set, I wasn't on it. And then shout out to Coffin, who said, do yourself a favor, put 4 Hades in if you're playing this deck. And as soon as I did, I guess felt the deck felt better. It felt stronger when I put those 4 cards in, when I had even more bombs to go over my opponent. And Hades being the best answer, unfortunately, to Hades and also to Dumbo is probably the biggest reason to run it right now.
Yeah, I know Bobby does a lot of work in this kind of list too, right? Like, because if you do get them cluttered in your hand, we can potentially filter through those.
Yeah. But Bobby discarding the heavy uninkables at the start of your game is very important for sure.
JP will feature the list that I got from you a little bit later on. Did you try Hades at all? You have any notes on that card?
Yes, I did, and I think we're gonna have a lengthy discussion about the Hades, no Hades, why, and I personally feel like it's a very deep discussion, and it's not about the one card. It's about completely play style of the deck, what you want to do. And Pandemonium mentioned like a tempo, and tempo with the Hades is very tricky word to use, because how to put it exactly, Hades might be very bad in the situation when I'm running like my bounce list and I'm already having the tempo. if I have Scrooge on the board, if I have Donald on the board, and you play Hades to remove my Clarabelle or something like that, not only that you ramp me, and I most likely have a lot of cards because you destroyed my Clarabelle and so on. If I have a cheap removal that I can just sink or just play it and play another Scrooge or something like that, I am getting the tempo back. And what are you doing? You're replaying your Hades that I don't care about that much. And I can slightly shift into being a beatdown deck because I can keep getting my cards when I play it correctly. If I like lure you into my trap, if I have two Clarabelles in hand, and I will feed you the shifted one to give me my ink that I can use all my cards, play my Clarabelle again, use cheap removal to get rid of the Hades, that will increase your hand size, and then I will get my cards back, and I now have more ink to play more cards, and I'm snowballing my tempo. And I think it's not easy to explain this, like the mental war of genie, no genie, tempo and not tempo. It's just maybe philosophy or something like that. I don't know how to explain it, but the Hades have its place. And I tried it and I built a deck that was not optimized with the Hades because the Plickly is a very good card if you are running Hades. So if you are like, I am going to play Hades, yes, I'm going to play Plickly, Plickly make the deck better. And if you are going this route, and I think it's doable and possible in the world where there is no aggro and you don't have to play under the sea, that you can play like I call it the deck just for fun, an MTG big dragons. Like if you are ramping and just playing a big dude and big beast and big dragon every single turn, and you are start beating down your opponent, that's the deck for Hades, in my opinion. So, and now you have to decide what is your green blue, what you are doing. If you are doing like this, I'm gonna play a big creature that has that has entered the battlefield effect, and I will say just deal with it. Then Hades is the best card that you can play. So
yeah, it's definitely have that tension of like having, you know, hard, firm answers. Which Hades deals with everything, right? Like it will deal with anything at least one of, versus these tempo positive plays where we can do multiple things in a turn. You know, Hades is, to your point, JP, like it's a 7 ink investment. So, you know, if we are returning a Hades to hand, yeah, they're going to get that come into play effect again. You know, but we almost in certain points of the game, we are okay with them just investing 7 ink again, because I'll say an example from like one of the matches I played in my top 8. I had like 24 ink or something at one point. So
the downside of Hades is felt much more profoundly this meta for sure.
Yep. So it's one of those things of like, you know, if your opponent has 9 ink and if you can kind of lock them into forcing them to play Hades, you know, there's something there. Go ahead, Pandemonium.
So, as far as the build conversation goes, we kind of have a divergence point of I think it's essentially Hades versus Mother Knows Best into either of these kinds of shells. Because you have only so many uninkable slots, and you have to run under the sea, for instance, you probably have to play a bend. It becomes a bit of a that seems to be the biggest divergence point, and where you have to make a choice for like how many Hades am I going to run, how many MKB I'm going to run. It's not impossible to run both, although it's a little bit difficult. But you could try to justify both in. But as far as like going all in on one or the other, there's definitely pros and cons to both. I think from my perspective, I like Hades for its ability in games where I'm closer to parity or behind. Mother Knows Best is a card that can do extremely well in generating tempo, and as you try to do your Clarabelle shift lines, that can really cement the advantage harder when you get those Clarabelle shift lines when you're in high resource games. Mother Knows Best can go extremely hard as a very fast card that can answer something, and then you have resources to play a lot of cards on the board. When you're in a lower resource game, when you're maybe on the draw into Blurple and they've denied you Clarabelle value because they've emptied their hand or ramped too much. When you're in top deck war situations where you haven't been able to generate a ton off of the Clarabelle to fill your hand. Those are the kinds of games where I like Hades more, where he can be this bomb off the top that is just, there's not a lot of resources to deal with him. And that's kind of where I'm at as far as why I prefer Hades, is I want a bit more power in those games where I am struggling with the resources.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think you just hit the point on the head. And that's exactly where our philosophies differ, because you said it exactly perfectly. If you are in the low resource game, the Hades is the absolute bomb. If you just top deck him like, here's the Hades, I don't care, go, go, go. And yeah, I agree there absolutely. But I think that in a position that you are describing, that we are in the top deck wars, we already lost. I mean, the green-blue is like not the deck that can win the top deck wars, even if it looks like we have Basil, you have the Hades and stuff like that. I think, or the way that I build green-blue, or I want to build green-blue, the deck has to flow. You have to have your options, you have to have your cards. If you don't, you lose. So for me, I'm focusing more on to get to the stable situation when I have my cards and I can be in control of my game, if that makes sense. And I never ever want to get to the top deck wars. So I'm not even preparing for it. I just say like, if I get there, I lose. Fine.
With respect, I don't necessarily think it's true that green blue will always lose in a top deck war situation. I think it can against Blurple, and that's certainly something I've experienced. But against most other decks in the format, if you're at parity or close enough to it, when you get to top deck wars, against Purple Steel, against Amber Steel, if they haven't gone too much lore, you absolutely can win. And against Blurple as well, even, you absolutely can win those wars when you're running the Hades anyway, where you can kind of go over top of them that way. I definitely understand what you're saying.
What do you think has to be the lore? Sorry to interrupt you. What do you think is the maximum lore that your opponent can have for you to win the top deck war? So if it's like 15, can you win top deck war? If it's like 10 or something like that?
I think 15 is probably a good barometer, honestly. If my Purple Steel opponent or Amber Steel opponent is like at that point and I have secured the board and we're top decking each other, I feel like I'm in a pretty good position, honestly.
Okay.
Let's put a pin in this one for right now, because I think we'll have a lot of conversation when we pull up the JP's list a little bit later on. But talking about like Hades versus no Hades, that kind of thing. Another Emerald Sapphire list, we flashed it on the screen just a little while ago. This is Jeremy's list, and I would say there's a lot of players building in this same general mode. We talked about this as like, I called it like a stompy list, right? Where we're just trying to play big bodies that are bullying the board over and over again. This list is, I would imagine more often than not looking to be turbo Clarabelle turns. And just because of the amount of uninkables and play lines in this build, I don't think you're as often going to dump your hand to draw like 3, 4, 5 cards off a Clarabelle as often as some of the others, unless you happen to get lucky with the way that cards played out with your welcome. JP, have you tried some of these card choices, like the Basil shift line, for example, or I know you at one point were playing like 4 copies of Scrooge McDuck. What do you think about a list that goes this kind of direction?
This list actually, I think, fits perfect definition of the big dragons deck. It's like big dudes and just deal with them, as you said. And I think in this type of list, the Hades fits perfectly. And I'm confused because
no
that's the
Hades,
list
right,
that
in this
would
list.
benefit. Yeah, and no Hades. Exactly, like that's the most confusing part about this list. So I actually love Scrooge, 4 of them. And I even like the Basil idea, but I think I went down on the Basil when you tested it and you said it was mediocre. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to allocate like 6 or 8 cards to play mediocre card, I would rather not play it at all. But this is a style of list that actually I'm gonna spill some of my secret. I don't care. That list would even benefit for playing Chronomicon.
Okay, interesting.
Ah, that's interesting.
And that's the big beast deck. Like, here's a big creature. You will not remove it. Okay, I will quest, or it's big enough to go 2/1, 3/1. Because if you have 5/5, the opponent don't want to remove it in any way because you have Chronomicon on the board, and you will just keep eating his dudes and even heal it with the SLI or some other healing stuff like or Bimaxes and stuff like that. There's completely different philosophy of a deck that you can build, but this one seems the closest to what I'm talking about. Like it's just like play the big creatures. You are not losing to Pete or stuff like that. There is just visions to get the best big creature. I'm absolutely fine with that. I don't know what the matchup spread is, but I like it. I actually do, and there is something to be built around this idea.
I know I tested a few of these cards, and kind of dropped them. They didn't seem like what I wanted to be doing. Pandemonium, did you test out the Basil shift line or
I did
some of
for
these?
I did for a few games with the Basil shift. And I think it's a pretty reasonable package. And I'll transparently, I don't think I necessarily fully got it, so to speak, as far as understanding how to deploy it correctly. My concern with the Basil shift line was that I found it to be awkward for me and how I wanted to play the deck, where it kind of conflicts with Clarabelle, where like I want to get Clarabelle value, but if I'm discarding them in the mid game, I kind of steal that pathway off for me, and now I can't draw off Clarabelle later, perhaps. And
It's
I
a May
found
trigger, by the way. It's a May,
yeah,
so
yes,
you
yes.
you
You
can
don't have to
choose.
do it, but if I'm like shifting on the Basil, it's because I either want to sing Under the Sea, which is a great line, but it's because I want to try to discard them because maybe they only have a couple cards in hand. They try to empty their hand for Clarabelle, and then in theory you drop down the Basil and then discard those last couple of cards and try to win. But I just found that to be a bit awkward. It put your opponent in awkward positions for sure, where like, if they keep a lot of cards in hand, they get punished by Clarabelle. If they try to keep it down low, they get punished by Basil. But I found at the same time it was putting me in awkward positions and decision making, and I didn't love that tension, and I couldn't quite solve that tension for me, and so I ended up not really bothering with it. I think it's got some good potential. It could be a reasonable call. I think it's definitely got some good merit in the mirror as well, as far as pressuring your opponent in the mirror, maybe slapping that Clarabelle down in hand, especially if you commit to the chip, which wasn't in this list, but is something you can run alongside Basil to try to get a double discard turn. But it definitely requires a different kind of mindset and play style than trying to maximize Clarabelle value every time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I tried this one a little bit as well, especially with regards to the Basil shift line. And like you said, there's tension there, right? And especially when you're when you're playing these blue-green decks, and I'm sure you guys know this for sure, we are looking to put our hand into ink for the most part. You're gonna draw 7 cards, and you're gonna draw maybe 3 more cards, and we are at all points during those first 3 turns looking and saying, okay, what are the 2 cards I'm gonna be left with at the end of this? Hopefully it's Clarabelle, You're Welcome in most cases, right? Like hopefully you're shifting a Clarabelle, singing You're Welcome, and to get that huge card boost. But you kind of have to commit to a line there. And there's one of these situations that came up a lot for me was, okay, I got the Basil shift line in hand, but is this going to end up being the line that's going to win the game versus the matchup I'm playing, or based on the cards I'm going to see? So the tension there was definitely not something I loved. That being said, it was very powerful in the games where I could get into a situation where I could shift Clarabelle, get that boost of cards a little bit, and then they go into a mode where they're discarding their entire hand, and you can actually kind of close the door with the Basil. There's something there, but I felt I think
to enter for a moment to expand on your thought with the Basil shift line, that you sometimes have to commit to something or you don't want to commit to something, stuff like that. That's exactly how I feel about the Plickly. I mean, it's good, but I have exact same thoughts that you just said about the Basil, about the Plickly. Because when I see on my hand, like, I have Scrooge, I have Plickly, do I have Tipo, don't I have Tipo, do I have small guy, don't I have small guy? And it can happen like I commit to Plickly play and I top deck Anninx and I have to shift to like playing Scrooge or something like that. And then my game plan kind of breaks. And that's the problem that I have with Plickly. I absolutely agree that it's a good card, but in my opinion, it puts me in the weird position that I don't really want to be.
I think you
It
definitely
can.
Oh, go ahead, Pandemonium.
I definitely think it can. One thing I will say off the bat there is I don't think you can. I don't think you probably should not run both Peakley and Scrooge together. I think they're both independently good cards that you can run. I think for the reason you described, where it puts you in awkward positions, I don't think they really flow well together, because Scrooge is uninkable. You kind of get forced into playing him on turn 3 or 4 when you draw him, and that doesn't go smoothly with Peakley's turbo ramp plan. Peakley kind of requires a lot of caution, and if you choose the Peakley line, you do get forced into a certain position, and you have to be very careful with both uninkables with Peakley, as well as managing your hand size when you choose to do a Peakley line. I think the power is worth it. I think it getting to ramp is to turn 6 and 7 faster is very strong. I think double ramp Pleakley into Clarabelle turn 4 is one of, if not one, is one of the strongest lines you can do, and having a path to turn 4 Clarabelle that doesn't rely on a shift line that can sometimes get strength or cannon is really nice, and is going to be nice in mirrors going forward, I think. But it definitely does require, it can be awkward at times. I do recognize that, and it can be tricky to navigate.
Closing out.
Yeah, but if you are playing it without the shift line, sorry for a moment.
No, you're okay.
You are like not how to say, you are not preparing yourself to sink under the sea if it's needed, and what you are describing seems to me that it's faster by just one turn if you are playing the Donald, but like Donald, the blue one, the 5/3.
Mm-hmm.
But that one seems a little bit safer, and it basically does the same thing. And if you want to, I don't know how to explain, because my thoughts are going to under the sea lines, and that you can just replace it if you want to go fast that route with Bimaxes and stuff like. I do get it, but
I think I'm with you on. So when you say safer, right? It's a situation where we're committing to a couple of plays as opposed to one play. If we were talking about just trying to get a Clarabelle out on that, a turn earlier in the situations where they have the answer, whether it be strength or whether it be, racing out an Elsa and popping off your Clarabelle. If in these games where you don't see multiple Clarabelles, right? I see the upside. I did play Pleakley for quite a bit. I would say, it's something I would return to depending on the way the metagame plays out. and you guys correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Pleakley, especially if you're going for that build, the main advantage you get, I would say, is against stuff like your Amethyst Steels, maybe Emerald, maybe Amber Steel a little bit, where you can contest the board a little bit earlier. To your point, JP, we're not like turboing out a Under the Sea, so we're not necessarily getting that out of it, but it has the added advantage of, if I do miss my turn 2 ramp, this can theoretically replace it, and I'm still not a terrible believer.
Yeah.
I do agree that Donald is a safer card than Pleakley in a lot of respects. Like, Donald is very steady, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive either. I've definitely thought about. I started off playing both, and I less copies of Donald, of course, but I might consider putting in Donald flat-footed again as a ramp option to follow up Pleakley sometimes. What was I going to say? It does represent only 1 turn faster than the Donald Duck. That's true, but I do think that 1 turn absolutely matters.
Of course.
As we know with the shift lines, and that has value. And I do also think it is going to Amethyst Steel, to your point, Fungus, on the play, especially the line of Pleakley into Yon Silver feels very strong into Purple Steel. The 3/4 able to contest while followed up by Yon Silver, which can be a kind of a house into Purple Steel.
Yeah, for sure. I want to just one last note on this. We haven't talked about this in earnest very much. This deck is playing a 4/0 Baymax. I hated this card when I tested this card out. Like, I just thought this was the worst card in the game. I'm flexible on that now. I'm willing to hear out people's opinions and not just be a brick wall on it. But I hated this card personally.
I hate this card.
The advantage you get, and the reason why I could see where Jeremy's playing this, is to try to turbo out these Under the Seas. He's on 4 Under the Seas in this deck. He doesn't want to lose to aggro decks. And to be fair, Under the Sea hits quite a few things even against Blurple. So if you're able to do a shift line and hit something really early, my biggest gripe with this Baymax is that any time beyond a situation in which I have a TPO and I have Baymax basically on that turn 3 as a pseudo Scrooge, like a slightly better Scrooge. If I have this thing that costs 6 ink in my hand, for the rest of the game, this terribly inefficient character that's uninkable in my player deck,
come on, man.
You just feel miserable. Like, it's a bad sealed card every time after that. I recognize that, like, we're gaining advantage in like non-linear ways for this card. But I heard you guys kind of say the same. I know Jeremy. I don't know if Jeremy is still high on this card. I haven't talked to him since the tournament too much. Pandemonium, you got any hot takes on Baymax? Are you a believer or are you non-believer?
So you can slide Baymax into any list. Probably not 4 of in either the JP list or my list, but you could slide it in as a 2 of tech if you make some other sacrifices, perhaps. And it can be a reasonable option. It can, against Amber Steel especially, I think this card is a house. It will win you games into Amber Steel. I think it's, like, good, but not necessary into Purple Steel. And then a lot of the time, it's just going to brick you. That's ultimately the issue with it as an uninkable in this deck. Every unink matters so much in green-blue because of your desire to empty your hand for Clarabelle. And I just found this guy to be way too bricky too often. I decided when I rolled into CCS, I'm just going to not see aggro all day and assume that happens. So I'm just going to cut this card and pray. And for the most part, that worked out. The meta kind of went a little bit down on Amber Steel, and a card like this became less necessary. If you want to respect aggro, I think he's a very good card to include, regardless of what build you want to run. But otherwise, especially in a meta where you're going to see, 5, 6, 7 rounds of Blurple, I think he's too bricky to justify.
JP, I see you shaking your head over there. You got any closing thoughts on Baymax before we look at some more lists?
I have so many thoughts, but the one part that I was shaking my head, that Pandemonium is mentioning, like, if you are afraid of aggro, you should play the Baymax. Sure, I can see that it's super fast Under the Sea if you have it and stuff like that. But I would even say that there are better cards if you are afraid of aggro. You can run like 4 of Helampfus or something like that. And the problem that I have with the Baymax is how many 1-drops you have to play for it to be consistent. Because we want to play Sail instead of Tipo most of the time if you are not going the line of Clarabelle free and Sail on the turn 4. But like we prefer Sail over Tipo, and we prefer to have as many Clarabelles as we can on our board without shifting Bimax onto them because Clarabelle needs to go there. And like I would rather have like 3 Clarabelles, just small ones, than Bimax on the board, because if they shoot my small Clarabelles, at least I have multiples of them and stuff like that. And the Bimax is just Scrooge for 6 that you cannot get rid of to refill and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
I'm a hater here.
I played with it once and it just rotted in my hand, and like anecdotal experience, like call it trauma, whatever. But I didn't have a good experience with this card. Obviously, Jeremy did do well with this, and I could see where it slots into a build like this, where he's playing, in addition to Tipo, he's playing like the 4 1-cost basils. You play something like Bobby, it alleviates it a little bit, and that's in the context I tried it was with 4 Bobby in one of these basil shift line decks. Actually, I think I played 4 of the little basils too. Experimented with a lot of stuff with these decks before I kind of wrote them off too early, I think. But the fact that there were so many different cards that could go into these lists theoretically, I think did really deviate my testing. And Baymax was one of the ones where brickwalled me. I was like, so many people were vouching for it. And I even asked at one point in the 20 lore chat, all right, you walk me through this like I'm a toddler. Why is this card good? And people had all kinds of hot takes. The one thing I will say with that, and not specifically about this card, but like just general life advice. You got to parse through good advice from bad advice. Everybody has a take, and you don't want to like, so it's worth taking a look and maybe investigating. But at the end of the day, not everyone is coming from the same skill level, not everyone's coming from the same like experience that you are. So just because everybody's playing a card doesn't necessarily mean that it is the best option for your deck and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's my soapbox, is that everybody in that 20 lore Discord, when I was like, okay, I hadn't been testing green blue, what do we got? Give me some updates. And everybody's like, yeah, we're running Baymax now. And I'm like, oh, this card sucks. So anyway, that's my little soapbox. I'm gonna transition us here to swapping over to the 5K at CCS. Just a call back here. I am the giant. In the top left-hand corner, you can see that I stand about a foot taller than the tallest person here. To be fair, Diego on the right-hand side is relatively small stature guy. I think he's from in Pandemonium. Maybe he's not actually from your area. Maybe it's one of these things where like Toronto.
We're close enough. He's from Toronto. GTA. We're tight. We're tight.
Semi-local, kind of like Kendall. I would call semi-local. Like I play in Georgia, but he is an Atlanta player. I'm like a South Georgia player, so we see each other quite a bit. But really stacked top 8. I didn't realize like who everybody was. I like every time I play one of these things, fun fact, like I'll play somebody and then I'll look at their name in Discord or not Discord, but Melee or whatever, and then I'll put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, oh, I've been playing you on Pixelborn for like for millions of games. So pretty stacked top 8 here though. This is where I was able to play blue green, and this is where I played JP's list. So I'll pull up first the list that I played in the event and kind of the one that he gave me. Now I will say to JP's credit, he said, hey, I haven't tested enough with some of this stuff, and there are some changes I would make to this deck, and I know he and I have talked about it kind of diverging from this list just a little bit. So, but I'll introduce it and then I'll kind of give it to JP so he wants to talk about where his testing was when he gave it to me. I'd say, so we talked a lot about the list that Colpost ran, which is pretty similar to Pandemonium's list. The big divergent points I'd say for this one, of course, are those 4 Donald Duck as opposed to running Pleakley lines. We're only running the 1-drop Clarabelle and not running something like Bobby, but instead of Bobby in this kind of list, we're running Develop Your Brain. Now, what I did find from a list like this, as far as those card considerations are, Develop Your Brain did seem to just that one extra card and kind of keeping that one extra card did seem to bear a lot of weight when it came to finding my Clarabelle shift lines. I played. So I played in round one a blue-green mirror. Shout out to the guy I played in that round one because he was like, "Yeah, I know you," and I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." So you know what deck I'm on probably. And so he was on a blue-green deck that had Baymax in it. He was somewhere in between like the Colpost list or the Pandemonium list and something like Jeremy's. I think he had Baymax shift line, but he also was on some of these cards. And there's so many variations of these decks, guys. Like blue-green, like I don't think you can put people in a particular like house. But the developer brains are the big divergent point. And then the other one, I know JP mentioned this, and we've had a little bit of discussion at the top of the thing here, is Mother Knows Best over something like Hades. JP, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of your philosophy when you went to this deck list? I know you were playing Hades at one point, so I remember I checked in with you, and you did have Hades in your list. And I tried that version out, but give us a little bit of context of how you got to a list like this.
So what's happening here is it's like the reflection of how I want to play the game. I want to have options. I want to be very flexible with what I'm doing. I want to be in control of the game, and that's a philosophy that gets you to big Clarabelle's draw. If you can like sculpture your hand as you want and get rid of your cards and refill and do like a lot of you can do a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff with intent. So there is a lot of decisions that you can make that will affect the outcome of the game, and that's why Develop Your Brain and Visions of the Future and Mother Knows the Best are the parts of my list, which how to say it, they give you the option to choose the best card that you need for every situation. And even if like how does Mother Knows the Best fits into this logic, it's like I can bounce just Tipo with it, and I don't care really much if it makes me 2 more cards with Clara. It get rid of a card. It will get +1 on Clarabelle, and I'm flowing in the game. I'm doing stuff. I'm replacing my card, and that's what I want. That's why Robin Hood is there, because in the situation when you are like not drawing with Clarabelle very much, or removed or something like that, Robin Hood can come in, and it's basically as the middle Clarabelle, just 1 card. And even the 1 card is very, very important. And if you stack those little incremental advantages, you will get to the point that I want to make with my deck, and that's being in control. And that's exactly the difference between Bobby and Develop Your Brain, because Bobby is -1 card, Develop net negative, but with the net positive, net neutral, but you will have the choice of the card that you need. And if you are in the situation when Basil will win you the game, or you need for like your big boom combo with
JP,
stuff like that matters
just a little bit, buddy. So
okay, sorry. So in that situation, I think that's the mindset that I have while building this deck. And with that point, that was one of the upgrades that I told you that I would. And I did run it fair amount, but like you don't want to give advice when you have games on it, but that's the dig a little deeper. It's super fun card, and it can make like absolutely crazy stuff. Like it's probably the closest card that we have to tutors in Lorcana at all, because 7 cards, and at the point of the game when you're 40 cards in your deck and you're taking 7 of them, you can basically And even if you don't find it, you can chain it into develop stuff like that. And you had some crazy game that I played against the Chernadogs, the Chromidogs, or call it. I went visions into sail, into develop, into dig a little deeper to get my combo of under the sea and the heads held high. And I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but when you have singers like 15 on the board and you have 10 and those are the moments I like to play Lorcana for. This is what I play Lorcana for. Those are the most fun part of the gameplay, and that's the way I build the deck.
That makes sense. I when I was playing this over the weekend, and Pandemonium, I'll let you weigh in on dig a little deeper too, because I know you play this in your list too. Dig a little deeper. I will say I did sing it together one time in the course of 8 rounds, but most often the way I played it realistically is hard casting it. As wild as that sounds, we'd get into these games where there were like 20 ink involved. They had Hades me a bunch, and to your point, JP, earlier, like they're Hadesing me when I have a shifted Clarabelle, so they're putting 2 ink into the well there, and I would just hard cast it and go find some more threats, or go find my bend in certain cases. So I think for me, it was detrimental as much as it was beneficial, that kind of thing. I would, and I'll show the build that I am kind of leaning towards after the weekend, but dig a little deeper. I was kind of, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't. Pandemonium, are you still like a believer on this card, or where do you land on it?
So I loved this card enough that I ran 2 copies at CCS.
Wild,
I
man.
just said, I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to beat these blurples by singing this card in the mid to late game, finding 2 bombs, and saying, come at me. And, for a good time, it was working. Like, when you were in those spots, you have, like, a weenie, because my Let's Plays more 1-drops that help sing this a bit easier. With, like, a 7-drop, you sing it, you get bombs, and it was working really well. It got a bit bricky as things wore on, and I think 2 copies was probably too greedy. But I still like it a lot as one of. It kind of works in a similar way that Second Star is working in Blurple right now, where you just, get a couple bodies on board, and then you can sing it, and they might deal with those exerted bodies, but now you're playing more bodies on the board that maybe you didn't have before. Or digging, of course, for the combo you can find that can completely flip the game on the current turn or a future turn. Essentially, where I'm kind of out of it is like it could be the 4 Under the Sea. I know Sailor was on 4 Under the Seas, for instance. But I'd rather have a bit more variation in the high cost unthinkable song, because sometimes multiple Under the Seas in the hand can feel really bad, and it can help a bit to have a bit more variety. And that's that's why I kind of like it as a one of.
Yeah, I think it is slightly more flexible than the Under the Sea, so I can definitely I can be with you on that one. I don't think it's a bad card, and to the point that I played 2 of them in my Blurple list that I ran in the main event. In that kind of list, especially where you're playing a bunch of these 4-cost characters, you have so many 4-cost characters in that deck. It's a little bit easier to sing this than something like Second Star to the Right.
Yeah.
They're in this list in particular, where we are playing develop instead of something like Bobby, having that uninkable stuck in your hand, it hurts even more so. Like Mother Knows Best, I don't consider something stuck in your hand. It is uninkable, and there are situations in which, man, I have these Mother Knows Best, and I really have to have my last ink for my Clarabelle. They didn't come up for me over the weekend, but I know it does happen in these decks. But for the most part, you can sing Mother Knows Best. I've even sang Mother Knows Best on something like my own Tipo, just to to get that last ink to just to drop the Clarabelle. It happens. You got to be aware of these things. I'm not willing to necessarily write it off completely, but it's a slot that I think could be something else. Notably,
of course, definitely, yeah.
With this list, so I know JP and I talked about this too. The Robin Hoods underperformed for me. I don't think they're necessarily pulling 100% of their weight. So I'll swap over to kind of the list that, I don't know if JP has signed off on this or not, but he and I have been cooking a little bit in chats. I think my direction, and I haven't tested this thoroughly, is go down the 2 Robin Hoods, go down the 1 Dig, and just put more meat in the deck. John Silver, there were a lot of situations in which just having
I'm
another
absolutely
big
fine
body,
with that. Like Robin or John Silver for me are the exact same card.
they play a lot
Like
of same
there are inkable 6-drops that you can just easily replace one on it or the another. If you are like going into heavy purple meta, I would play Robins. If I would go into heavy like purple steel or amber steel or stuff like that, I would play John Silver. No issues there. Like.
I think that situation both of you guys talked about earlier on is another one that kind of leans me into playing John Silver, is that when we are in that top deck mode, John Silver can kind of play that role of that Hades plays in some of these other builds, where he's a good top deck, and he's inkable in situations in which we are trying to get our hand as narrow as possible to get that Clarabelle, you're welcome, off in the early game. So this is where I'm at right now. I'm not going to say that like this is set in stone or anything. So one thing I'll mention, and I mentioned this in the other video I put out, but you guys mentioned kind of Baymax being really critical for potentially getting you an edge in those aggro matchups. I played Amber Steel on the draw 3 times, and I 2-0'd every single one of those opponents with this list. So I'll say that to say this. Now, they got to 18 lore, 19 lore in certain cases, and there were games where I just shut them out. Once you get the lock, this version in particular that's playing like the Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman, playing Mother Knows Best especially is a really critical card there, where you can get to a point where the threat of Under the Sea is there. If they drop only 1 character, you're bouncing it. If they're dropping multiple characters, you're landing it Under the Sea. It really just takes that first Under the Sea, and then the game is often just locked up because you are drawing so many cards. My experience with not Churna dogs, we don't have any Churna anymore, just dogs, Sea Dogs, or like the level 9,000 list. He was playing like Chrono dogs, so with Emerald Chromacon, which I think was really spicy. My one loss in the Swiss was to Ghosty on dogs, and you just get 0 value off of Clarabelle in that deck. They can drop their hand so fast. There's nothing you can do. I don't want to use Mother Knows Best. I don't want to You're Welcome them. It feels horrible.
Yeah, this list is crazy. Just because of 4 Ursulas and the amount of 1-drops that they play. If you like drop a Donald, so you can draw to your Under the Sea, you cannot keep it on your opening hand. You have to draw into it. Then be lucky that they don't snipe it. And if you give them any cards, they will just puke them out because they are 1-drops. Like.
The mini game you have to play with Ursula versus Under the Sea against dogs is a very big frustration point.
Willix asked, what do we think about the Basil shift package? We talked a little bit about the top of things. At least for us, it sounded like everybody thought it kind of had a tension there. It's powerful, but in a list like Jeremy's, it's maybe a little bit better off because he's not all in on Clarabelle lines or kind of controlling the board. He's just trying to slam big bodies, and then in that context, it's a big body that you can shift early with a little bit extra value. In decks like this one, or I'd say like Pandemonium style builds that Cole Post ran, I think the Basil shift line has a little more tension. So, to JP's point before is this style of list is that plays Mother Knows Best and playing the 4 of now Perfect Gentleman. We are looking to do the exact same thing every single game and not pivot nearly as much as some of these other decks can, which is a good thing, in that you're very linear. It can be backfire a little bit. I will say that I played Dale in my top 8 match. I did the thing. Game 1 just completely destroyed him. Game 2, I didn't find my Clarabelle shift line or something. It was a closer game, but it wasn't one where I executed on my game plan. Game 3, I executed on my game plan, but he had a hand, and good player, like obviously knew kind of what to play against me. I was on the play. He went I think sail into Tipo, and I was just
yeah.
That's the line, isn't it?
And
Yeah,
last card I
that's
had in hand
crazy.
was Hades, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm just, I'm dead in the water here. It actually
Yep.
was a really grindy game. I had to pivot a little bit and try to just like be the beatdown in that situation. Like I think I played my Clarabelle, and I had You're Welcome, but You're Welcome like a 1-drop Basil. It felt awful, but I'm like, okay, this is how we have to do this. So sometimes being linear has its drawbacks, but I would say for my part, I think I prefer this linear style where I'm looking to do the same thing every single game.
It's
and
also very relaxing to play. I found it absolutely like it's so beautiful. You can just turn off. Well, not really, but if I go back a set or two, how green blue was very difficult. Now it's so chill. Like it's so good.
yeah, I feel like we're definitely, so we lost a lot of power level, right? Like Muse is obviously going away. Like
Yeah.
is one of the main reasons people are divergent on these lists a little bit more, is now the power level is not consolidated where it used to be. But at the same time, for the most part, the decks we're facing, the power level is not exactly where it used to be either. So I have described kind of the way green draws cards as like, basically duct taping something together to make sure that we can draw cards. This is the way the Blurple can, or the way the Amethyst can in general, or Doc. We have to all of your stars have to align for you to draw cards. But fortunately, this is a very mid-rangey metagame. These blue-green decks can kind of prey on that style of metagame, which is why I think you see so many different lists actually doing well, is that it is just, these kind of decks have always preyed on people who are one step faster than this. So you can beat up on Blurple decks, especially if people are not, a really top tier opponent. They don't, they go into panic mode when you start doing Your Welcome and Another's Best and some of these cards into on their plays. And just from a mental perspective, the same reason I wouldn't play Blurple into a field where I know I'm going to play Blurple 7 rounds ever again. You can put people on tilt just by You're Welcoming their thing, making them shuffle, and then be like, okay, so you just finished shuffling, I cut your deck, whatever. I'm like, You're Welcome again. Yeah, shuffle your deck one more time.
I always feel so bad when I do that. I'm just like, I have to do it this way, but
just mental damage, man. You're just doing a little bit of psychic damage there.
Best mental damage that I did to a dude was play 2 You're Welcomes, and exactly as you are saying, shuffle it, draw 2. Then the dude forgot to draw the 2, so I was like, you have to draw those cards. Okay, he was sitting there with 18 cards in his hand, and I was like, took my 7 mana and just tap it and like bent my wheel, and dude like pick up his stag and just smack it into the discard. Like, you happy? You can go.
Something I think worth discussing, not necessarily with this list, but with any of these lists, the fact that there's so many cards that can be played means that, and I think are viable to some extent, right? Even like Baymax Shift, it's done well. Jeremy had top beta with it. Other people did well with it. Hades, because of the variety of cards that can go into these decks. Something I found in the 5K when I played this, and I'm sure Pandemonium, you maybe can speak to this as well. People that are good players are going to try to put you on cards that you don't necessarily have in your deck. So there's a wide range of different types of threats. Bend is a good example of that, where Bend to My Will is a card I didn't often have in my hand, but people were terrified of it, of the threat of it.
Oh yeah.
It's just what do you think about that?
So funny story on that note. I think I mentioned this earlier, where I faced Zan and Amir on Sunday. And we get to interesting position in game 1, where I double sing You're Welcome to clear the board, slam down a Clarabelle, be able to draw back and have like 3 Hades in hand, ready to go. And what he wasn't playing yesterday was he was not playing Ben on Saturday. He was on Sunday. He bent me. And that felt terrible. And then I was able to dig the turn after, thanks to some good luck, to bend him back. And then we were both back to top decking after that. one thing I want to say was I think one thing we're unified on at this point is playing Bend. I know it wasn't in Jeremy's list on Saturday, but it sounds like it's going to be in that list going forward, where you kind of want to have it to keep people honest, and so you can dig it and find in the right scenarios against Blurple or the Mirror. It's a lot harder to get tremendous value on it like you used to, but it's just a good card to have in your arsenal.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
this is gonna cause some discussion maybe between us or something like that, because I don't really feel that it's necessary versus Blurple. I First of all, I agree with you completely. Like, we have to play one, and that's basically the reason why we play just one, because it's not great. The meta is power level 0 and stuff like that. So, but I feel like it's a necessity just for the Mirror. What do you think about this? Is there any other matchup that is like, I
Not really.
really want to bend?
Like, I guess occasionally it can come up into purple steel, but not very often. It's really just those
Yeah,
two
purple steel,
matchups.
you can like bounce Cobras and then bend him, because yeah, the Cobras can be problem. But there is so much cards that we can play, and with the Cobras, I know that I think it was you, Pandemonium, that put me on like the improvised stuff, and the deck is absolutely crazy. And next like 3 weeks that we all be cooking for DLC, like that will be tough
If
to
you want to beat
finalize
purple
it.
steel, you play improvise 100%. If you're worried about that matchup at all, I think it's such a good card in that matchup. I like totally cooked Jonathan Williams in our matchup in the CCS. Where I went like turn 1 small Bobby into turn 2 small Clarabelle, improvise, kill his Palace Guard, and then it was Peekly into shift, thing you're welcome. It's just such a strong. Whenever you can just get a free body like that, it just makes such a huge difference.
And that gets me to a point that maybe our viewers do not know, but the best illusion nuke ever, heads held high. Like, that's
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
such a crazy play.
don't
When
give
the
up
dude
those.
has like a Cobra and Yago and the Palace Guard or something like that, you just for 6 mana just sing it and pew, 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 pew.
We got a question in the chat here. I think it'd be a good place to maybe diverge just a little bit. Somebody asked, what's the best way to deal with evasives? Would you consider Emerald Coil? And I want to just make a note on that one. Just talking about, hey, taking out those Robin Hoods. Like, obviously the Robin Hoods, we're there to potentially, net neutral on cards and draw that card. I'll give my take on this, and JP, if you want to build off of that. The Robin Hood originally was in there to be contesting evasives in on the ground, and like with a game of like, okay, you've got a genie, I could potentially stop you from using Dumbo, stop you from using Genie. I will say, for my part, the way this deck plays out, most of the evasive characters are some of the ones you just want to prioritize with your Mother Knows Best, your Welcomes, your Basils. And a lot of times, just because of the fact that the Genie, for example, is an uninkable and it forces them to draw up, I'm happy to have that in their hand. So I do try to prioritize that with Mother Knows Best, just to leave their hand as bricky as possible. In the same way against like Amethyst Steel, for example, I will Mother Knows Best a Calhoun all day. I'm very happy to have them have a bunch of Calhouns in their hand, because they can get in these situations where their inking is awkward. For me, evasives are not really either they're a big deal because they've gone so wide that I can't control the board. And I haven't found my Under the Sea, or it doesn't really matter if they were evasive or if they were ground. At least in this list that plays like Mother Knows Best, Hades I know can hit some of those items as well, but often we are controlling the board with non-combat related options. That's kind of where I'm at on that. JP, you got anything to add for that?
I think that you summarized it pretty much perfectly. I will just add that Emerald Coil is absolute garbage, and you should never play that card. And I think this is an interesting bridge to a topic. Well, not a full topic, but that we who've been playing the green blue for a long time understand perfectly. It's like the core that we used to do with muses and genies. Like, if I have muses on the board or you play genie, like, let's go. I will bounce it every time. And a lot of people, but you are giving them a card and card draw, and you don't want to. Every single time you hit the genie back to their hand, every single time. And so with the evasives was the biggest threat. It's the genie because it quests for 2. Elsa is not a big deal, quest for 1. Iago the same, and we have Under the Sea for that, and we have all the spells that non-combat removal. And as you said, evasive gets to be problematic if there is a lot of them, and you're basically losing that game. But you should proactively clean them so the game will not like run away from you.
Really, I think the only evasive that we care that much about in this meta is Dumbo. You know, Genie and Elsa, those both can get under the seat at any time. But Dumbo is a problem where he comes in and he gives a very controlled draw, and we have to have the combo to deal with him in a hard way unless we use our remove on him. Like, Dumbo is priority number 1 for our hard removal choices, whether that be Basil or Hades or Much Knows Best. Get it off the board, or you're welcoming it. Absolutely happy to do that. It's just, you got to spend your hard removal on that card and hopefully have something for when that comes down. And if you can proactively remove, like JP said correctly, like if you can proactively remove those evasives so that Dumbo isn't as much of a threat, that's good.
Yep, I'm with you on that. And honestly, Dumbo's another one of those things where it costs 4 in the decks. In decks like Amethyst Steel, they would much rather not play a Dumbo most of the time against us just because of the playstyle of this deck. They would prefer to be flooding the board with, more aggressive things. Dumbo being that character that's going to take at least a turn to get value for the most part. You just have to, with these decks playing Under the Sea now, you do have to, and the fact that there are a bunch of illusions, especially in that Amethyst Steel deck, you have to consider your threat priority with those things in mind. A good example of that I will give for this style of deck especially, but I think for any of the control style versions, is you want to be leaving the 2 power things in play, even if you don't have the Under the Sea, just because, hey, if I'm you're welcoming your Cobra, and if I'm, challenging into your 3/3 Raja, even if I don't have heads held high at the time, I'm going to try to prioritize dealing in combat with the things that don't have 2 power, just because Under the Sea, when it happens, is going to board wipe or near board wipe, right? So you have to be taking your play lines with that kind of strategy in mind. It's like playing to what your outs are. You're going to see Under the Sea at some point, or you're going to see the vision that takes you to the Under the Sea. I didn't find Amethyst Steel to be particularly difficult with this style of version. I will say that in our at the Lorcana Lounge last night, I saw the Rat and Colpost playing games back and forth. Colpost running the Hades version. It did seem like the Hades was a little bit more awkward in that matchup, where they tend to get a little bit further ahead, where the Mother Knows Best came down a little bit early. Maybe a little bit anecdotal. I only played it one time on the Swiss, but it was not particularly difficult for me. That's another one of those things, talking back earlier on, is like, okay, consider the skill level, right? Maybe that person wasn't the best Amethyst Steel player. They were X and 1 in an event that had a lot of really good players, but you never know. Maybe they just got the aggressive lines.
In my testing, I have found Purple Steel to be easier than Blurple a lot of the time. Now, I've pretty consistently run an Illusion Hate card in my lists, whether Heffalumps or Improvise, throughout most of my testing in this set, so that probably makes a difference. But I don't find Purple Steel to be too bad as a whole.
I actually am quite opposite. I would take Blurple every time instead of Purple Steel. Like, maybe it's my playstyle, but I'm playing the matchup like wrong, or I still need to learn few tricks. But I feel like, or I'm way better in the mid-range battles of the Blurple. But I would prefer play Blurple than Purple Steel, because once you get to like the dangerous like 17 lore or something like that, Blurple cannot run with the game. Purple still can just top deck Cobra or dock into Cobra or something like that,
Yeah,
and it's can be unpleasant.
fair.
And I hate Calhouns. I hate them. Jesus, I hate Calhouns.
He's annoying.
I'll go back to a little like skill diff situation. Is the other blurples I played that were not Dale, and in the games I played with Dale, for the most part, like I did have an advantage in most of those games, and but obviously lost the match very, like, literally by one lore on the last turn in that game where you went to like triple TPO on me or whatever it was. But if it's gonna when you're playing this style of deck and you know what you're doing, just because there's so many, the breadth of cards you can actually play in these style of decks, again falling back to that, and the way this deck will make your opponents feel, it like you can see the life leaving their eyes, right? And the blurple players that have 20 cards in their hand while you're drawing up to 20, and you're just like, all right, and here's a Scrooge, and here's a Scrooge, and here's a Donald, and like, sometimes that really could put people on tilt, and not everybody's built equally in that respect. So that's what we'll say on this piece. But I think it's Pandemonium said, I think a little bit of a hot take. I don't think this is tier 1, but I think it occupies a tier 1.5 slot.
Nah.
Okay? I'll let you have the floor here in a minute.
I'll die on this hill. I think it's a square now. I think triangle format is over. Welcome to the square. I think it has a good matchup to Blurple. It's not like necessarily like a massive advantage. You'll outskill worse opponents, of course, but against a good Blurple player, they will get you close to 50-50. But I think you have a couple of percentage points above them. I think the purple steel matchup has been fine enough in my experience. I think we've all had experience against amber steel where you are capable of blowing them out. Like, I think it has good enough matchups into the rest of the top decks and just a solid enough game plan that it is worthy of that tier 1 status. At CCS, it had, I'm pretty sure, the highest conversion by far of any of the decks. It had 4 in top 16 running a relatively small portion of the game. I don't think it had exact stats coming out of that, unfortunately. But there was like 10 million blurples in that room, and they only had 1 extra deck in top 16. I think it's here. I think it's tier 1. I think it has the ability to compete in this meta, and I think it's a good choice right now. It may falter a bit if it gets targeted a bit more, but right now I love its position.
JP, what do you think?
What would you say? So what would you say is the worst matchup for the deck, in your opinion?
It kind of depends on how you build. Right now, I feel like it's aggro, especially dogs. I think dogs is such a, and I think dogs will change because of Ursula. I don't like going up against Amber Steel. I think you still can just blow out Amber Steel sometimes, but it's still probably the matchup I'm least looking forward to, and even that's not that bad.
I'm gonna give a hot take here. There are good Amber Steel opponents, but a lot of people, this is the deck you throw to your buddy that doesn't play the game, doesn't have a lot of reps, and like just turn your guys sideways, and you will beat those opponents a lot. So, I know Sky did well with an Amber Steel list most last weekend. There's a lot of players out there that are masters of that deck, but a lot, your market share of the people that are playing this blue-green deck are going to be people who are, I don't want to say big brain, like mentally ill. Like, I'd say all of us have something wrong a little bit in the head to play like,
we're all creeps.
Our autism is being expressed, being maximized by a list like this. And if you pick up this list and you start playing it, it's not obvious that, some people are going to throw it away and say this deck sucks, right? So anyway, I think, yes, Amber Steel opponents that are really skilled, probably this is a little bit difficult. But a lot of people, and especially your open events, and I'm a 7-time DLC loser. in that I have only gotten a ticket once and only via the scam in the Discord. So I'm looking forward to my first DLC in Milwaukee. So I don't know what it looks like at DLCs, but I have heard it's a plumber's metagame. It's you got a lot of plumbers and, to use like baseball terminology from the 20s or whatever. You're playing a lot of plumbers. You're playing a lot of, we're playing a lot of little kids that got their, finger in places that shouldn't be, that kind of thing. So you'll be able to knock those opponents down, get into those later rounds. It's the kind of deck that investing your time and your mental energy will pay off quite a bit because your play lines are, especially in early turns, your play lines are, really critical. Like you mess up one thing, you're behind immediately. Or you're way ahead. Like if you can Sing Under the Sea really early on some of these aggressive opponents, and you can set up like double Clarabelle, and your deck looks lethargic at times, and then you're just like out of nowhere, just blow them out of the water.
Taylor says,
Yeah,
worst matchup is yourself not finding Big Clara, which is very, very true.
And I want to see Fungus sitting on his first DLC, playing versus the plumbers, and being like, "What am I doing here? Where is my Clarabelle?" And getting stomped on 0-2. I just want to see that. Like,
oh no!
Come back. These are the people. These are the people that I have been playing. These are the people we have at home. Like, we got one Canadian here, but like Diego's at all these events.
You are saying that you are playing versus plumbers all the time.
I'm not playing plumbers. We have no plumbers in Georgia. There's no one knows how to fix the pipes. Everybody's like a professional TCG player for my entire life. If you guys are Magic players, by the way, like our area is where Kibler was playing predominantly. Like if you're super old, like Saul Malka back in the day, like we have grinders in this area, man. We have 0 plumbers. So I've been through the fire. I'm willing to play some plumbers. I need some freebies. Please, I need some free rounds.
Right.
Like I need something.
Okay.
Any last thoughts on this style of deck, guys? I have a couple of them queued up if we have time that we can just kind of bounce off of.
Show the color one, please. Go for the color one.
Let's go.
I
got so we got a couple of spicy deck lists. One I will mention, and hope Sailor is comfortable with me saying this. We had a conversation of like Bobby versus Develop. I know Sailor is at least trying a deck list right now that plays both. And to his point, like not finding your Clarabelle is kind of the battle you're fighting against yourself. I could see a world. I don't know what I would cut in this style of deck, but I could see a world in which I want to have more early card draw, and that kind of does make sense. So, just something to throw out there. Like there's so many different iterations on this deck. Pleakley deck list. Let's see if we have any more Pleakleys in the mix here. So this is Dan's list that he posted with a lot of spicy cards. And I know he did a video himself about this. I want to say he said he lost his winning in basically for top cut on this one, which, if we're taking like the math lessons from CCS, like losing one game or one match, put you from a top 16 to a top 64 immediately. We had so many X3s at our pool and so many X2s that it was just heartbreaking if you were like a couple of percentage points on tiebreakers off of a top 16 with the exact same record, that kind of thing. So as these events get bigger and bigger with best of 3, that kind of happens. Anyway, so he felt good about this deck list. I have never put Ink Geyser in my deck, but I love causing mental damage to people. What do we think about this? JP, let's just start off. I know you got a hot take.
Okay, first of all, I want to start with that Geyser lists are working or were working. I actually had some back and forth with Mo, who built the Geyser for the Pixelborn tournament, World EU versus US and stuff like that. He plays some Geyser, and it can work. Geysers can work. With that being said, like 20 cards from that list, I would throw into garbage immediately.
All right, break it down for us. What are the problem children here?
So first of all the Jasmines. Like only one worth keeping is the free cost one, and just because it gives reckless, and in this metagame, reckless is shit. So no. Small one is bad, no. 6 cost one is bad, no. You don't ever want to run a card that will do nothing if you don't have a shift, in my opinion. And Luis is a bait. I mean, it looks amazing. It's for free. It will kill Daisy and all the Disneyland stories, and it will win you the game, and yada yada yada. But in reality, you are playing for free that will die to Royal Guard, to Rafiki, to Captain Hook, which nearly every deck's run 4 of one of those cards. And yeah, Jeweled Collar have nice picture. I will say that, and that's the only good card. Good thing I can say about that card.
Pandemonium, what do you got on this one? Do you think any does this card have wheels, or are we
So I don't disagree with JP necessarily in that this is a list that I struggle with because like it's so different than anything I've tested this format. I have not even really glanced at Guild Collar. I'll shout out the Goodest Boy on Discord who has been trying to make Collar work for ages. And you know, it's hard to argue, like it looks very weird, but he did go on quite a good run with it. I will say that Ink Geyser is a more interesting card now that Blurple is occupying like 40%, 50% of the meta, and if Blue-Green rises, it's kind of an interesting card to have in the mirror. But on the other hand, Collar is kind of iffy in the mirror because everybody's on 4 small Clarabelle, and you can just slam it down and have it popped, and that kind of maybe ruins your game plan a bit. So I'm not really sure about this one. I appreciate the creativity. It's something I kind of want to actually like test myself to try to get an idea of, but I think fair enough reason to have some skepticism towards some of the cards. I'm not sure if Ship Jasmine will work if your opponent at all expects it.
Yeah, I really wanted Lewis to be better. Before Dumbo got spoiled, I was playing Lewis in kind of our pre-league decks and stuff like that, and he looked okay, especially before Rafiki got spoiled. Which we were. Who knows if those games were actually gaining us insight of the metagame. I will say Blurple was still good even without for what it's worth, without Dumbo and without Rafiki. Still a great deck. But people that know me know I hate this metagame. Know that I don't think Fabled did a good job. They should have printed Be Prepared. I won't get into all of that. Red is unplayable. But
okay.
I on the list of cards that I put together very early on, and I did drop this on like the 20 lore Discord of like, okay, these are the cards I could see putting in my deck and not being completely embarrassed. The 3-drop Jasmine was on there. The 6-drop Jasmine was on there. I looked at Ink Geyser. It's powerful. Like if you can take advantage of this and have it be one-sided, it is a very powerful effect. So I don't know if he just caught people with their pants down a little bit with this build. He had a positive win record. There's like something to be said for that. And he's playing 6-drop Baymax, which I wouldn't do. So, I think Lewis value goes up a lot if we're not in a world where Dumbo is ubiquitous. So maybe that card has legs in that
It's
world.
worth noting that Lewis is better in this list in particular, just because of Guild Collar into Lewis to like force a count. Even if you're still trading down, you're at least ramping.
Yep. No, yeah, it makes total sense to me. I think there's something to be learned here. I think if there is a world in which Jasmine, the 3-drop Jasmine, to JP's point, is not miserable. It's a card that like is okay on its own. And the shift Jasmine, I think, actually can be a really powerful effect. It's inkable. Like worst case scenario, we throw this thing into the ink and it doesn't care. But if this bounces 3 things, you feel pretty good about that. So
I mean, sorry,
go ahead.
It's so telegraphed. The only way that you can actually do that, what you are saying, to the like bounce 3 characters or something like that, is that if you don't show Jasmine any time during the game, and on turn 6 you play small Jasmine and big one. That's the only way that you can caught a good opponent off guard. If you are slamming Jasmine on like 2, 3 or whatever, when she's sitting there, like good player will quest with like one dude. And just, yeah, whatever.
I see what you're saying for sure.
Mhm.
But it has to be a known card to them too, right? Like how many of us could have told you this? Like you could have recalled off the top of your head that this card existed. Maybe if you see a 3-drop Jasmine, you're like, okay, danger. Shift Jasmine is in play, but I don't know. I wouldn't throw these cards out the window except for Baymax. Baymax is terrible. Don't play Baymax. that's where I'm at least.
No, I didn't want to sound so mean. It was like more for the comedic effect, but pretty much props to the guy for being creative and for risking it. Like taking this type of deck to a big tournament takes a lot of courage. So big props for that. But I think that Geyser have some potential, and somebody have to put a lot of energy into it to make it work. But I think it was today that we discussed about Geyser on 20 Lord Discord. I think that was Pixel who brought up like the legendary Stitch, which looked
Oh, God.
pretty promising in Geyser list. I mean, my first reaction was that Stitch is absolute garbage. Like, sure. But the idea that you throw them into discard pile and then just before playing Geyser, you will just play 2 of them for free, then ban the Geyser, is kind of reasonably fun. So if anybody out there was like, those guys don't know what they are talking about, I'm gonna break a Geyser build, go for it. I wanna play it too. But somebody have to figure it out.
So not gonna be you, huh?
No, not gonna be me, definitely.
I
All
hear
right,
that.
no, we're not investing any energy to this one. I might throw a few Ink Kaisers in the mix. I love throwing a card in there that people have to read, man.
Yeah.
And that is one of those cards. Ink Geyser is one of those cards that every time new cards are printed, the same thing with that Stitch, right? I look at this card and I say, okay, is this broken now? No. All right, moving on. All right, worth a shot. Let's give it another look. I did have one more list for us. This is a list, and Quigley and I were kind of talking about this off stream just a little bit. I don't want to say like there's issues with this tournament per se, but I will frame this a little bit, right? This was a list that was showing 9-0 with this list, playing a lot of the suspects. Cards that we see a lot. Under the Sea, you're seeing 2 Bender Wills. We're seeing Mother Knows Best and Hades. Jasmine Shiftline and Baymax. The Uninkables are wild in this deck. So this was a German tournament that was online only. So it's one of those things where I don't know if this converts to, a real paper tournament and stuff like that. This is a situation where he was not playing the 3-drop Jasmine, but is playing the 1-drop Jasmine with the 6-drop Jasmine shift line. The spicy one I do want to take another look at
15
again, is that Honey Lemon. 15 Uninkables. Yeah, 15 Uninkables in this deck.
Wow.
He said, I don't care. I'm playing them all. Ben Will, 2 copies, Mother Knows Best, and Hades. We'll get them in there. Baymax, maximum Baymax.
Why choose?
Pandemonium, you want to start off? You got any thoughts on this list? Is there anything to be learned from something like this?
So the Unikable account makes me skeptical, but Honey Lemon is an interesting card. So I was playing or trying to experiment with a shift focus build last set, and Honey Lemon was kind of the standout card of that build. The tempo you gain if you shift on her and just get a free Mother Knows Best without even having to sing it. Maybe you sing a second one after. It feels amazing. Her stat line is pretty reasonable at a 4 cost. And in combination with like running more shift Baymaxes, she could be interesting. Notably, if you shift Baymax onto her, the bounce still works as well, which is kind of a cute thing you can do. I don't know if she's like worthwhile, but the dream curve of like 1-drop ramp, Honey Lemon, shift Clarabelle, get a free bounce, and then maybe sing something else it's nice. It's optimistic, but it's nice.
This is like a build your own muses. That's the way I'm going to frame this. This is like the worst muses you've ever seen. But JP, you got any thoughts on like a honey lemon or anything of this build? Like, is there anything here?
The honey lemon. I tried. Actually, we built with my friends. We had some tournament, or they had some tournament that was set 5 and 8 only. So it was like rotation without Fabled.
Gotcha.
And we built the green-blue deck that had the honey lemon, because there it's really, really strong when there is nothing better in the list. And before I posted the list with the Donalds, I had in my deck the Napoleon or the Mouse Queen or whatever it is, the 3/6 for 4 mana. So you have just a big stack stick. And at that point, when I was building the deck, I was considering the honey lemon just because of the cute play that you have, like Clarabelle, honey lemon, shift Clarabelle. That is such a powerful play that you can do. But as Pandemonium said, like, yeah, it's cute. Like, you're most likely not gonna do that anyway, like anytime. Like, yeah. It's something to keep an eye out for, but I don't think it's good enough to play and to do consistently. On the other hand, the amount of innings is absolutely crazy, but I can see like playing the small Jasmine that you can shift into the Bimax, not just necessarily into the big Jasmine. I mean, there are 4 Helamphus. Maybe we can learn from that.
Yeah, I know. I think all of us have at least had some number of Heffalumps and Woozles in our deck at some point. I don't know that it is a necessity in this metagame right now. I know for me, I improvise as a card I kind of struggle to put in my deck, and I see why you would want to put that in there. I think if I were reaching for a card like that, the first one I would look at is Heffalumps, because it's a little more versatile. But this player was on 2-year welcome, 4 Heffalumps and Woozles, and went 9-0 in this event. So take that for what you will.
That's crazy. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, he beat the guy that ran exactly my 60. So I should be silenced because this deck absolutely crashed mine. So.
If anybody knows this player, I haven't talked to this Lorcana trainer. I don't know him in real life or anything like that, or even in Discords. I don't think I've seen this name around. Interested to see if they are still happy with this list or what their thoughts on Honey Lemon are. I know for me, looking into Milwaukee probably is the next big event I'm playing. I'm going to try Honey Lemon. I think it's worth another look, and maybe it's complete garbage, and maybe it doesn't mesh enough with the cards that I want to put in my deck that I'm not going to stretch my deck to play it. Like, I don't know that I want to be looking at Jasmine. I know I'm not looking at Baymax. I can tell you that for sure.
I mean, I think the biggest downside of Honey Lemon is you have to run Baymax over.
You think so?
Probably.
Yeah.
Like, what else you could play? You know what? Let's figure out some cheap Donald, and we can shift the 4-cost Donald on some small
cool.
Donald.
Because
it's shift 2, right? It's shift 2.
Yeah.
Shift 3.
Where's the 1-drop Donald? Why are there no 1-drop Donalds?
He shifts.
I'm checking. Going to Dreamborn.
There are none. That's sad.
The other thing like that kind of put me in the bad place when I was deck building the other day, and I think it was JP, I can't remember who it was that was like, no, you can't do that anymore, was I wanted to play I wanted to look at Fred again, because I was like, okay, I have a spot, I want a threat, let's put Fred back in our deck. Nope, you can't do that anymore. We have Donald Duck. The Perfect Gentleman, the card draw Donald, is kind of, you can't put Fred back in your deck anymore to just pull Clarabelle out. Maybe it's worthwhile just to grab Donalds and Clarabelles, but that's where one of the reasons I was just like, let's throw John Silver in there and call it.
I don't think Fred's like a terrible card, but he's probably too slow.
Yeah.
No, I think that Fred is completely fine. Like I'm sorry. The way that I was looking at him, it was we have 0 draw in our deck except Clarabelle. What Fred does is pseudo draw 1 on quest, and that was good enough at that time. And as we move forward in the metagame, the decks get better, the draw was figured out how to do it, and so on and so on. So maybe he's not good enough now, but I still think like one of when you can find it with the visions and stuff like that, can do cute things, but not with Donald because of his shift. And I actually just checked his shift 3, and there is one 2-cost Donald that's uninkable 1/1,
I'm out.
and when this character is
Oh,
challenged,
right,
you may
that card.
return an action card that isn't a song. So the
Really
isn't a
bad.
song is kind of bummer.
I mean, getting visions is nice, but yeah, no.
There's a question in the chat from Willix about Blurple playing the action that gives support and draws a card. Is that have a home in green blue at all? Pandemonium, what do you think?
Uninkables, so no. We cannot afford uninkables that don't work in our game plan. Well, I know it's 1 cost at least, but even then, like any unink, it has to matter a lot. We can't afford. We have improvise. Improvise like is similar but inkable. Like we're fine.
JP, anything different there?
Yeah, the reason why Blurper is running Helping Hand is that because they don't have improvise. Like for me, there is no reason to play Helping Hand instead of improvise. Like the card is definitely better.
I will tell you why Blurple plays it. So Blurple plays it because they can helping hand, for example,
Iagos and stuff like that.
And well, not Iago too, right? Like it's flexible there, but they are also just playing it for the support aspect. The same reason that Blurple plays the 1-drop Basil, so that when you play your Elsa on turn 4, you can say, give something support and punch above your weight class a little bit. The fact that it draws a card, support is actually really important in the Blurple decks because, it can let you trade up. The one thing I will say in these green-blue lists is, and something going back to something we talked about earlier, is that when you're playing these green-blue lists, you will challenge if you have a good opportunity to, get value off of it. But often we are not dealing with threats in combat. We're not dealing with them via challenging. You will, like if you have Scrooge in play or something, just a big body, and you can kind of bully the board. You will, but the support means a lot less in these decks, and the uninkable is liability, like we kind of said.
The unink is really damaging.
Even at 1 cost, it's just hard to get out of your hand quick enough to be real life. Maybe in a deck that's not all in on Clarabelle, maybe that is trying to play some kind of ground game. Maybe it makes more sense there. I'll ask this. We went through a lot of this stuff just to kind of close out. Are there any cards? We looked at a lot of kind of rogue cards that are being thrown at the wall in these last 2 lists, especially Ink Geyser, Jasmine, Honey Lemon, that kind of stuff. Are there any cards we haven't seen in these lists that we think are merit or worth testing? JP, you want to start on that? Any cards that I know you said Emerald Chromacon is one. What else you got? Or tell us more about that.
I have like 4 cards that I'm testing currently, but I will keep them secret till Bologna.
Okay.
But I have one that I want to talk about, and that's Big Max. Both Maxes generally. There is the one that he's for free with the kicker, get the song bank, and there is the shift one, the 6 cost, that has pretty decent stats for 6 cost, and his ability is kind of insane. Like if you can stick him on the board and next turn just play Mother Knows Best, quest with him, replay the Mother Knows Best, it's doomsday for opponent. But he looks so amazing on a paper, and I played like 20-30 games with it, and he does nothing, and I don't get it. He's so
I feel
bad.
you. I've been testing him too, actually, just the past couple of days, and just been like, man, he's like just so slow, it doesn't come up very often where you're not already winning that like he can do anything.
Yeah.
It's strange. You probably need the shift line to make it work, but I don't want to dedicate that many thoughts to an iffy shift line. Maybe with different songs, but right now it's just not there.
If we had Morph, he would be
Yes.
amazing.
For sure.
Yeah, I said something the other day. We were just chatting and just throwing cards at the wall one day. We were, we talked about Ratigan and all kinds of nonsense that we can put in these decks.
Yeah, Ratigan could be cute.
I don't think Ratigan's completely off the wall. The big max. I want that to be good, right? Like you're playing your Welcome and Mother Knows Best in your deck. Like rebuying those things has to be good if you're playing those cards, right? I don't know. I don't play enough games with it. I know I wasn't impressed with it in very early playing. I was playing something like trying to make Power Line work, like probably everybody did. I was playing green red, and I had it in there, and it was in there. So it was one of the first cards I cut. Was some of those lines. How about you, Pandemonium? Any other cards that are kind of off radar or that you still want to put some time into?
I don't really have anything at the top of my mind right now. I've gone through the list and nothing I really love. I'm probably going to try to slide develops into my Pleakley list if I can find the space alongside Bobby, but other than that, nothing yet. But we'll be, working on the list as time goes by. Hopefully see some good lists out of this weekend in Denver.
Yeah.
And I figured one card that I want to ask you guys about. It's the Aurora. I've seen in few lists, and it's like defensive layer versus Hades, but I don't know. Like, what do you think about Aurora?
I will speak to that because that's one of the it's one of the cards that I had on my list to try out. And the main reason for that is I got completely bullied online, like right before CCS, like made me feel bad. Person was playing Blue Steel, with like 4 copies of the Award Aurora, and it just completely blew me out. There were situations in which I just could not deal with their board at all. They got ahead on board, and they would play Hades, and they would play whatever they wanted, and I couldn't deal with anything. So I think there may be merit to putting a couple of copies in there if the metagame shifts in such a way that everything's targeted removal. Maybe it defends a Clarabelle in a really meaningful way, especially if the metagame goes way more over the top and they're playing, if everybody is on like a list like Ed with 4 seconds start of the right, and like I could see like teching in some of these cards to say, hey, your Hades doesn't work anymore, or your all your targeted removal doesn't work anymore. So Ratigan's another card I was in that same mode on. These decks don't have as much ability as the Muses decks to just ink every single turn, but you don't need that many turns of Ratigan to just close the game out. So it's one I don't think is completely unreasonable if you want to try it out. Pandemonium, did you have any take on that?
Ratigan's an interesting card. I think it has some potential to tech in this meta. Aurora, he seems a bit slow to me, and I think my biggest concern with her would be she kind of wants you to run 4 of her, because getting 2 of them out on board is kind of like an Exodia lock, where now your opponent has no hope other than finding the Under the Sea UTS combo or outracing you as it goes. That could be interesting. I haven't really tried her myself, so I'm not too sure. I guess worry about her speed.
One, I know Kolpos, I wish he was here to kind of talk us through a little bit. I know he was very set on the Iago that reduces cost of their next action very early on in his testing. Have either of you guys tried that one out? Do you have any feelings about that one?
I did, because it's kind of cute. Like everybody is hyping, like, oh, you can bend on 4 or 5. Like in this metagame, like nobody is worth bending on turn 3, 4 or 5, because they have like 2 cards. Of course, it's damaging, but you are running bad cards. You have to have a bend, and everything has to go your way. That being said, it's kind of interesting to play Visions for free. And that was the reason why I tried it. Is it good? No. And the end of story. But visions for free are kind of interesting.
Yeah, visions for free, sale for free, that kind of stuff. You know, it felt like the power level was there if the turns lined up. I know he was high on it for a long time. Obviously, he didn't play it at CCS, so I don't know if where his mind was on that, or if it just became less meta relevant the way Blurple ended up playing out. But yeah, I think that was the last card I really had kind of top of my head. I'm going to try out some of these cards. I got a long while before we're talking about going to Milwaukee. We got a few weeks here on that. And then JP, of course, you got Bologna like that week before. I know I got a few friends going to Bologna. Pandemonium, are you going to Bologna?
No, I'll be in Milwaukee for sure, but I didn't double dip on this one. But all the best for Bologna.
All good.
It's not on the same date?
I think Bologna is the weekend before, right?
I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks before.
Milwaukee.
Jesus, so you will have all the data. Cool.
Yes, it'll be interesting.
I mean, hit us up. Let's test. We got to figure this out.
Okay, sure. Right.
In conclusion, do not play blue-green. Please play Blurple. I don't want to play mirrors. This is not a good deck for everybody. I don't want you to get the wrong idea from all this conversation. It's too complicated. Just play Amber Steel or whatever. I don't want to play mirrors ever. Don't play blue-green. But it is very powerful. Like even if it's not tier 1, it's a deck that I think can take down a tournament. And these guys think it's a lot better than I do. But I think the power level is there, not in a vacuum, but in the meta we're in, it can be really good. So it's well positioned. I'll throw it to you guys. JP, I'll start with you. What are your social media handles? And I'll drop them in the description below. Any kind of stuff you want to shout out?
All right. So I basically posting Lorcana content in English on my X, formerly known as Twitter, and that's x.com/prayscream. So it's like pray and scream, like what I do when I'm breaking Lorcana. So you can find me there or at the YouTube channel JP Lorcana, which is dedicated to English Lorcana content and green blue, and I tried some vlogging from a tournament. Maybe we'll do a vlog for Bologna, could be fun, who knows. And yeah, some guys will probably be there as well.
Check out his video. I know he did well in a really big sealed event over there in Europe. Worth checking out if you haven't looked up JP's stuff. He's got always got hot takes, often they're good takes. I'll tell you that. He's always got a hot take for you, so Pandemonium, what about you, man? Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to my team, Enter the Battlefield. You can find us on YouTube at Team ETB Lorcana. You can find my many hot takes and criticisms of organized play at jquickster on X. And if you want to get more of my insights on green blue, I do have a Metafy guide. My Metafy is at Pandemonium Heart, where you can check out my green blue guide.
There you go. If you're a Pleakley believer, especially, but a lot of good stuff in there. I know he's dedicated to keeping it up to date. For a lot of Metafy guides, you spend your $10 or your $20 or whatever they're asking for, and a lot of people are not putting the time in. I know Pandemonium Quigley is like super stand-up guy, knows is willing to put the work in for that. DKP is another guide I bought, and he's always on it. So, but I'll say Pandemonium does a lot of good work there. It's worth checking out the Metafy if you are looking at a list sort of like the one we feature by Colpost. And as you guys heard, he's an expert on these decks. He knows what he's doing, and he's making conscious decisions about that. So. If you haven't liked and subscribed for me, I will have some gameplay footage probably next week, as I got to get my camera out and get some local folks to take some mental damage as I play Bend on them, and make them shuffle their deck against their will. So That's my plan. Subscribe to the YouTube. I have a lot of content coming down here. I also do coaching. If it's something you have an event that's coming up, or if you're trying to learn this deck for locals or something like that, I'll hit me up in either YouTube or Discord. Also my X, willing to break out and do a coaching session and try to work you through how to navigate this meta. Also a lot of videos from the previous meta, and hopefully to get some out soon about the Infinity format, where I am you guys may or may not know this, I'm a red-blue player at heart. As you guys mentioned before, this is the deck for all the homeless red-blue players. So anyway, JP, Pandemonium, either of you guys do coaching as well?
Oh yes, on my Metafy as well, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm too lazy for that for now. So maybe in future, and I'm planning to do more stuff. But you know how it is. You go to work, you play cards, you go to sleep,
I hear that.
and yeah, maybe
Fair.
in the future.
I'll drop those social media handles in the description below, guys. I'll also drop those deck lists and any of them that JP or Pandemonium want to give me, Dreamborn links and stuff like that. Check the VOD down below, and we'll have some good links off there so you can find these guys. Mad Jack, shout out to you too, man. I know you really great green-blue player. If we come back to a blue-green-blue discussion, I'd love to have you on and give your takes. But yeah, good discussion, guys. I think we did a lot of good work here. So appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, great.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good night.
Ciao.